Alex Pereira is my greatest fighter of all time, aka the GOAT of combat sports, okay? So I'm gonna get into why I think this and why I truly believe Alex Pereira is the greatest fighter of all time in all of combat sports history, okay? Alright, let's get into it. Yep, I said it. I'm gonna die on this hill. Alex Pereira is my greatest fighter of all time in combat sports history. Now, I'm a little newer to combat sports. I've only been watching every event, at least for UFC, and a few other events here and there, but, you know, I watch the Muay Thai ones and ONE FC. I watch a little bit of boxing here and there, but I'm mostly a UFC guy. And I truly believe Alex Pereira is the greatest combat athlete of all time. Now, I want to first start off by explaining the other candidates for greatest of all time and why I think it's absolutely horseshit that some of them are even nominated. Now I'm going to start with the first dumb fuck answer, alright? And a lot of people I've been seeing say Israel Adesanya is on the pound for pound GOAT list. Not even fucking close, alright? Let's just be honest with ourselves. This clown got knocked out in the 5th round and fucking choked. You know? Like, this guy just fucking... He's dog shit. Nah, in all seriousness, I do think he's a doggy diddler, so I don't really want to... I don't like doggy diddlers personally. He was also drunk driving recently, and he was caught for that and played that off like it was nothing. Meanwhile, complained that Sean Strickland caters towards Monster Energy drink. Little interesting that you're okay with drinking and driving, but not an energy drink. But hey, you know what? This isn't politics. Not my place to say. But just going in Israel Adesanya's record, I understand not everyone puts Adesanya as pound for pound number one, especially when some of the later fighters on this list are going to be here. But in my opinion, Israel's not even in top 15. I'll be, like, completely 100% honest. I don't even think he's fucking close. Number one, in every fight he's in, it's absolutely fucking boring. The only fights that are interesting is the one he lost with Sean Strickland, because he lost to the biggest underdog in his entire career. I picked Sean Strickland, by the way, just saying. Anyways. And when he beat Alex Pereira, and when he lost to Alex Pereira. The only times it's at any point interesting is when he either loses or there's a knockout. And just going through his fights real quick, I mean, you can clearly see there's a lot of W's here, but, ooh, decision, KO on Whitaker, respectable, respectable. We respect these. KO on Whitaker is a very good, that aged very, very well, okay? So that's one good fight of his title. I think that's when he got the title. I think this was interim Kevin Gastelum, and I think this is when he got the title. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Anyways, again, I wasn't around during this time. I've only been watching since, like, just after COVID, sort of time. But, yeah, Robert Whitaker, good KO. Yoel Romero was one of the most boring fights I've ever actually sat through and watched, back when I rewatched a lot of the older fights. It was just, like, nothing. Like, a unanimous decision. I honestly don't even think I think there should have been a split at least. Like, best case for Israel, it should have been a split. I don't understand how it was unanimous, but hey, you know, you got to keep the anime boy in the UFC, so they cater towards certain people in the UFC. You know what I mean? Anyways, Paulo Costa. Apparently, Paulo Costa was drunk or something during this time, and he, you know, wasn't doing too well. This is a good KO. I'm not going to discredit his KO over Paulo Costa, but Paulo Costa isn't exactly the greatest of all time. He's definitely a good-looking fucking man, that's for sure. You know, I'd fuck him if I was gay. Anyways, but yeah, Paulo Costa, he's just not good. Even when he was on the come-up, like, yeah, he never lost up until fighting Israel, but that doesn't make a prospect, like, fucking amazing, you know? A great example is right now there's a prospect, I can't remember the weight class, but Lerone Murphy, is it 145? I think it's 145. I could be wrong, but I think it's 145 because I remember him being pretty big. Lerone Murphy, or yeah, he sucks. I think he's terrible. I think Lerone Murphy is dog shit. I think he's like just barely in like the unranked sort of skill in UFC. I don't think there's a world where he becomes a champion ever. Maybe this ages poorly, maybe it doesn't, but I'm sticking with it. All right, I'm standing on this hill. Jan Blachowicz, he tried moving up after having, oh, look at that, 2 title defenses. A little interesting. You got to move up after 2 title defenses against some shitty opponents, but you know, I guess at the time they were considered good. Moves up to light heavyweight, gets absolutely laid on for 5 rounds. Wow. That was 5 rounds? Jesus Christ. I thought that was 3 rounds, I'm not even gonna lie. Holy fuck. It's been a while since I watched that one, but I just remember him getting laid on because he doesn't know what grappling is. And then he beat Marvin Vettori. Congrats, you beat someone who doesn't fight back and just has a crimson chin. Then you beat Robert Whittaker, which was a very controversial decision. I remember seeing a lot of people saying that Robert Whittaker won this, and when I watched the fight, I thought it was close enough to give it to either man. I think it was just a close fight, but it's a close fight. So far, we have close fight, or sorry, KO, perfectly fine. You know, we win some of these. You get the belt. You have a close fight with a 40-year-old man, while being, I want to say, like 31 at the time. That was a while ago, wasn't it? Yeah, 2020, 4 years. I don't even remember how old Izzy is. He's 34. Yeah, he would have been 30 fighting a guy who's 10 years older than him. I know he's a genetic freak in Yoel Romero, but like, you know, come on. 10 years difference. Anyways, and then he beat Paulo Costa, I guess in an impressive fashion, but it's not like Paulo Costa is like this fucking invincible person, you know? He was just on a good winning streak, and that's about it. Plenty of motherfuckers get on good winning streaks, and then they just fight, you know, one decent opponent, you know what I mean? A good example would be like someone like Joe Pyfer, and he got, I wouldn't say fraud checked, but he definitely got checked by, Jack Hermanson recently. And then there was, you know, the Bashrat, I think it was Javid. I think Javid's the good one. Whatever the good one was that had a close fight with, I can't remember. He's a Canadian fighter that looks like Ariel Helwani's little brother. I can't remember his name. Starts with a Z, I think. I can't fucking remember. But he lost to him, which, you know, big up to the Canadians over here. Just saying, you know, we up. Defeating prospects still. One day we'll get a champion belt again. Anyways. But I just think overall, yeah, like, fraud checks just happen, and I think Paulo Costa is a fraud when it comes to, like, championship level. This guy's nowhere near championship level, you know? And he's definitely being treated well by the UFC. He was given Strickland after Strickland had one of the closest decisions of all time against, Dricus du Plessis recently. So, and that was after losing to Robert Whittaker. So, I don't know. My opinion, I think Paulo Costa's shit, and it's aged like milk. Yeah, it just aged like shit that Israel beat him. So, okay, shit win. Really shit win. Good win, okay. And then we get Jan Blachowicz moving up. I'm not really counting this as like a, you know, part of his title reign, obviously, because this was him trying to move up. I think for the belt at the time, I could be wrong. I think interim belts. It was something fucking weird, because I think this was when, this was around when John Jones vacated the belt. So, I'm guessing this is when this interim belt was in effect, or something to that nature. And then, so, he lost. So, just to recap, good win to get the belt. Shit win. Aged like milk win. Shit loss. Not that Jan Blachowicz is bad, but, you know, Jan Blachowicz isn't exactly the king, you know what I mean? He's just overall well-rounded and got that legendary Polish power. But Marvin Vettori, shit win. Robert Whittaker, very close decision, which I feel like if, you know, you're a GOAT, you're not really leaving things up to the judges. We'll get into that later. And then a pretty shit win against another guy who's like 10 years older than you. And Jared Cannonier fights like once a year anyways, so it's not like, you know, Cannonier's the next fucking, you know, John Jones, you know? He's just kind of like there, you know what I mean? Like, oh, someone in the high level is fucking, he needs an opponent? Alright, let me go. I will say he got fucking robbed against Mavov. I know he was rocked and wobbling, but like, Jesus Christ, he didn't fucking fall, bro. Let the guy fall. Anyways, so Age Like Milk win, alright. And then you lose to Pereira in a fight that you were winning, so you literally choked. Uh, yeah, you literally choked the fight. I think he was actually up 4 rounds. I thought the fight was a little closer when I saw it, just saying. This is also around when I started watching in 2022. Roughly a few weeks or months before this fight, that's when I started watching. Just to give you a little frame of reference from when I started. And then Alex Pereira lost because he left his hands low and he got clipped. And yeah, that's a good win now that it's aged like fine wine. And we'll get into why. But Izzy is 1-3 against Alex Pereira. And that's, I don't know if like I'm the only one who can do math, but that's a shit ratio if you're the greatest of all time. If you're the greatest of all time and you've lost to someone 3 times back to back to back and you beat them once, that means fucking nothing, you know? Like, I'll give you an example. I'll even say if Max Holloway beat Volkanovski recently, like let's say they're scheduled to fight later this year and Max Holloway ends up beating Volkanovski, okay, that's great, but like Volk isn't the man anymore, number one, and then number two, it's also like it took you 4 tries, you know what I mean? Like if they ran it back, what would that be, a 5th time? I'd probably put my money on Volk because again, odds are just better, you know? That's just how math works. Sean Strickland, you lost to Sean Strickland. Now I rate Sean Strickland very highly, actually, but this isn't a terrible loss in hindsight. I mean, we'll see where Sean Strickland's career goes, but yeah, your last fight you lost, so, you know, literally, it's just a shit record. It's a really bad record. Like, your names that you've beat are shit, and the way you've beaten most of the, like, cans, the ones you should be, like, Marvin Vettori, you should be putting on a spectacular performance. Great example, Sean O'Malley put on a masterclass against a dog shit top 5 opponent in Chito Vera. Chito Vera doesn't deserve to be anywhere near the top 5. Chito Vera wins because he eventually gets you tired and then he looks for like a finishing blow, you know? And his last like fucking 50 rounds, he's probably won 5, and those 5 rounds he won in. And I know that's like, oh, well, that's a skill too. It is, but your overall skill set is not high level. And Sean O'Malley definitely proved that his overall skill set is beyond high level. That shit's on another higher plane. He absolutely put on a masterclass ass-kicking on Chito Vera and made it look interesting against a guy who sits there like a punching bag. And he was given God's gift in his Crimson Chin. Marvin Vettori, same thing. He's given God's gift in the Crimson Chin, but he's the lowest IQ of, I think, any fighter ever. He'll just stand in front of you taking blows. And Israel made that fight look fucking boring. I think twice, right? I'm not seeing it here. I think he beat him on the come-up as well. Maybe I'm tripping. But yeah, like, you're 2-3 in your last 5. There's no way you can. There's no way. Even if Israel beats Dricus du Plessis and then gets the belt again, I still don't even think he's top. He's definitely not top 10. Maybe you put him in top 15. Nowhere near top fucking 10. And pound for pound list. My personal opinion. But yeah, this is one of the arguments I hear that Israel Adesanya's pound for pound. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Alright? Alright, currently you're not pound for pound. You've never been pound for pound, realistically, because certain fighters have been around. We'll get into them in a little bit. But yeah, this is like the low-hanging fruit pound for pound. Basically, only dog touchers still ride with Izzy, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I think Alex absolutely mugs Israel Adesanya in every single way possible. Moving on. The man in debt himself, Habib the Eagle Nurmagomedov. I can't believe I actually said that perfectly. Um, Now, I hear him being brought up a lot in the GOAT conversation, and when I was newer, like a year into watching UFC, I pretty much believed 100% that he was the best UFC fighter or combat sport athlete of all time. I believe he was pound for pound number one. But like over the years, the 2 or 3 years I've been watching, I've kind of just grown out of it and realized that like his wins haven't aged very well. And on top of like his wins not aging very well, he didn't have a long career. And I know you're already looking at, well, he's 29-0. He beat like 20 schmucks and then he fought 9 actual opponents. Um so, that's just what happens in Russia. They beat like 20 people and then it's like, okay, now you get to go fight in a big organization, you know what I mean? Or you beat like 10 and then okay, now you get to go fight someone who's at least a little bit high level and get lucky because you just dominate them on the ground and the other person can't fucking fight back because they weren't preparing for every Russian to grab their legs. Anyways, so yeah, hasn't fought in a while. He hasn't had an active fight where I was watching. However, I've obviously seen the clips of him beating Gaethje. I've seen all these clips. I've watched some of these fights. I don't think I fully watched an Ally Quinta fight. I think just because I fell asleep because I watched I think 1 or 2 rounds of him just laying on him and I just got bored. But other than that, where's his full fights? Scores? Am I tripping? Oh wait. Fight history, here it is. Yeah. Wow, bro. You beat that, you beat him, you beat Magomedov. You beat him, you beat him. Wow, a lot of Russian beats. Okay, okay. Okay, okay. 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 Yeah, he literally beat like 20 schmucks. Like, holy fuck, bro. Like, he literally didn't fight anyone of note until RDA. And even then, decision. Okay, he KOs Daryl Horcher. Never heard of him before. Maybe that's just me being a casual. But, yeah. So he beat him by KO. A schmuck who I don't think anyone fucking remembers. He beat RDA by decision. Okay. He beat Michael Johnson by submission. Michael Johnson's like a 50-50 fighter. He definitely has the potential, but there's always like something missing with Michael Johnson. Like in a fight, it's either for whatever reason he doesn't have takedown defense, and then his next fight he has perfect takedown defense. This fight he has a great chin. Next fight he just has a terrible chin. Really sucks for Michael. He just can't get like a consistency going. This is a good win. I rate this one a lot. Michael Johnson, not a champion, not a former champion, whatever, right? But I rate that win, even though Michael Johnson, I think, is unranked currently. He beat Edson Barbosa. Good win, because that was a little bit of testing of the stand-up. Age, not so great, now that Edson Barbosa, I guess, had brain damage in his last fight and decided to just not do anything Edson Barbosa normally does. So this isn't aging too well. However, I rate that win pretty highly, because I rate Edson Barbosa overall pretty highly. So his 2 wins before getting the title, in my opinion, are, like, is Michael Johnson, Edson Barbosa. I guess you can say RDA because this is like a younger RDA. Because I think RDA is what, like 42 or something? He's in his 40s. So this was probably when he was 35, 36. Not bad. Oh wait, no, this is way longer ago. Holy fuck. I was a young RDA. That might have been in prime RDA. But good wins, good wins. Good wins, not like, wow, you beat some of the pound for pound guys. Beating Conor McGregor at the time. This is obviously let me backtrack a little bit. He gets the belt off Ally Quinta, which I believe was ranked like 13th, maybe 11th, something like that. He was ranked outside of the top 10. I don't think any competition in the UFC. I think it should genuinely be illegal for a champion to fight someone who's outside of the top 10. I think that should just like never happen ever. Because if that does happen, what the fuck is the point in rankings? There's no point in rankings. You might as well just pull fucking, the MMA guru off the street and have him sleep someone like fucking Marcin Tybura or some shit. You know what I mean? Anyways, so he gets the belt off a outside of top 10 fighter who's aged like milk, and he'll never like be anything ever in combat sports, unfortunately. I'm not saying this to shit on him. I'm just saying it is an objective fact. Ali Quinta is like done. Like, it is what it is. And then he beats Conor McGregor. I think it was either to unify it, or this was the weird time where there was two belts. I think this was to unify it. He beat Conor McGregor by submission. I mean, to be fair, with the grappling that Khabib has, or is like, he's the most dominant guy, he never lost a round sort of narrative, he probably should have finished Conor McGregor way sooner than the fourth. You know what I mean? Like, Conor McGregor has grappling, right? But this in prime Conor McGregor at the time, I think he was coming off the layoff because of the Mayweather situation, where he was boxing Mayweather, which in my opinion was a close fight, just saying. Anyways, yeah, he submitted Conor McGregor with this guy's never lost a round. There was times where it's like, I mean, Conor could win this, you know what I mean? Like, he was leaving it way too dangerous for Conor. Now, don't get me wrong, Conor got fucking stumbled back and almost knocked on his ass by Khabib. But Conor McGregor had a lot more time than you should ever give Conor McGregor in a fight where you're that dominant grappler, and grappling is supposed to be Conor McGregor's weakness. You know what I mean? I think... Now I don't want to be wrong. I'm going to double check. Conor McGregor. I don't remember. Did Conor McGregor lost to Dustin twice via TKO, right? I don't think he's ever been submitted, unless I'm tripping. Oh, he had... Oh, Khabib. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, he lost to Nate Diaz. True. Wait, Nate Diaz submitted him. That's not a good look. I know that's up in weight. This is a different time. I understand that, but definitely not a good look that fucking Nate Diaz can submit Conor McGregor faster than Khabib. Anyways. And that was Conor McGregor when he was fucking flawless, had no losses. He was in prime, the perfect Conor McGregor you could ever face. Anyways. So he beats Conor McGregor, aged like milk win. We found out that Conor McGregor doesn't have a great leg, and he also doesn't have a great chin overall, I'd say. It is what it is. So that aged pretty badly. I respect Conor McGregor, full respect to him. He does everything for the sport, obviously. I'm not gonna argue with that. But, you know, I think we can all admit at this point that Conor McGregor isn't like a real contender. You know? Like, he beat Jose Aldo, congrats. He moved up and he beat Eddie Alvarez, congrats. But I think if you put any champions other than an Eddie Alvarez, maybe not the Jose Aldo thing. I think the Jose Aldo thing was like a 1 in a billion, and he landed it, congrats. But the Eddie Alvarez, if you gave literally any other champion to Conor McGregor, I think he gets smoked. Personal opinion. You know, like, I think if Gaethje was there, Gaethje probably knocks him out. I think Dustin Poirier would have knocked him out like he did. I think fucking... There's not many lightweight contenders here. You know, even someone like BJ Penn, I think BJ Penn would have been able to find a way to submit Conor. You know what I mean? But, you know. So he beats Conor. So far, his best win is probably Conor. And then Dustin Poirier for the second defense. Which, this is a good win. I rate Dustin Poirier very highly. I know he actually went to a close fight with Islam. I know some people are acting like, you know, Islam dominated that fight or whatever. If you look at the scorecards, it was 2-2 going into the 5th. And I know he obviously lost in the 5th. But, you know, that's a pretty fucking close fight. If Dustin can get, like, 2 or 3 more wins and challenge again for the belt within, like, a year and a half, I think Dustin actually stands a pretty good chance in the rematch. But I rate this win probably the best so far. I rate Dustin Poirier higher than Conor McGregor in terms of skill. Even though Dustin Poirier has his low IQ moments. We all do. So, I rate this win. And then he beats Gaethje. A guy who doesn't grapple. I know he's a former wrestler and all this other shit, but Gaethje doesn't grapple. We know this. Everyone knows this. He has one takedown in the UFC, and that was at like the 1 second mark in the final round against Rafael Fiziev, you know? Like, it is what it is. He doesn't grapple. He's not great at... I think he's great at defending takedowns. He's not great when someone actually gets on him. Personal opinion. But these wins aren't bad. They're not bad wins. I'm not saying that these are shit wins. But what I'm saying is that he has 3 defenses as a champion. Yes, he didn't lose a fight ever, but he beat 20 no-names. And the 3 defenses that he has are against people almost outside of their prime. Like, I think this Dustin Poirier win is a little past his prime. I think Dustin Poirier is past his prime. This Conor win, I think this was, like, just past Dustin Poirier's prime, personally. I think Conor McGregor's, was layoff. Also, Conor McGregor being showed that, you know, there's levels to this brother. And then Justin Gaethje, I don't think this is past Justin Gaethje's prime, but, like, Justin Gaethje isn't, like, you know, this super experienced martial artist. You know, he's got great wrestling, in terms of wrestling matches, and he's got great striking for a guy who's never trained striking, or at least got into the UFC before really ever training striking. So good wins. I rate them. They're very good opponents, very dangerous opponents, right? But these are 3 champion defenses of good, solid people, you know? I think Conor might have been pound for pound at the time, maybe. But he definitely isn't now. These have all aged like milk. None of these guys will ever be like pound for pound #1 again. That's pretty obvious. Nor are they... So, the whole point with this is that they're not pound for pound now. They probably won't end their career in pound for pound, given the trajectory of their things. I'm not saying I don't want them to be. I'd love to see Dustin Poirier pound for pound #1, but it's just not really possible. And they've never been pound for pound #1, truly. Even if Conor McGregor was given that status at some point, we all know that that's just not true. He beat Jose Aldo in a few seconds. That's because he landed a good shot. And he beat Eddie Alvarez because Eddie Alvarez is one of the worst lightweight champions to ever exist. I mean, we all know this, right? Anyways. So yeah, 3 solid wins. But overall, you had 3 good defenses and you've never lost. That's not like you are the greatest of all time. This is just, you had a good career, you know? I think Khabib, you could probably put Khabib on the list for pound for pound if we're talking like top 15 all time. But I don't think he deserves to be in the top 5, personally. I don't think he's top 5. I said it. I'm gonna die on this hill, you know? And, you know, I'm a fellow, I don't know. I was gonna say I'm a fellow, colored man, but, you know, I meant the white variety. I mean, the white variety of color. So, I have nothing against Khabib. I know he scammed people, still don't care. Like, if you get scammed, or sorry, he didn't scam people, he just committed tax fraud. A little different. But, yeah, it is what it is. I don't really care. But, yeah, he retired early, and he got a good career. But he's not the GOAT. He's nowhere near the GOAT. Now, ooh, the one that I'm sure everyone's been waiting to talk about. The gay man himself, Jon Jones. Now, when we're talking pound for pound #1, most of the time we don't include cheaters. You know, people who randomly grow boobs in certain fights where they get TKOs. Little red flag, just saying. Or people who weight cut pretty heavily and they barely can make 155 and they're talking about competing at 145. You know, just saying. And then obviously Jon Jones being a PED cheat. And a lot of people are like, it's the pictograms. They're all about the pictograms. Now, if you're on YouTube and you watch MMA YouTubers, I'm sure you've heard of a good soul called the MMA Guru. Now, the MMA Guru made a perfect video where I think he was breaking down, I want to say the guy was like the More Plates More, I think Derek? Is it Derek or something? From More Plates More Dates. Who basically dissected the Jon Jones things. And if you're out of the loop, I'll just sum it up and basically say, on medical records, he had the testosterone, his testosterone levels were essentially 0. And what I mean by 0 is that he had the testosterone levels of a woman. Okay? And as an athlete who exercises, it is quite obvious that you build testosterone by building muscle, by competing, by just like getting better at the thing you're doing, by exercise mainly. So it is not within human limitations to be able to have 0 testosterone. Not actually 0, it was a single digit number that was really shit and is basically impossible. But he had the same test levels as a female. And that's just not possible when you're an athlete. Like, no cheat thing. And if you're wondering, like, well, how does that mean he's cheating? Well, obviously, what it means is that he was taking performance-enhancing drugs to boost his testosterone, to boost his gains, and he would get these gains, whether that's power increase in, like, his striking, or whether that was, cardio. We see Marab with insane cardio after doing, a few treatments, we'll say. But a lot of the time it is, basically the way cheating in sports often goes, you juice up to get the most amount of gains possible in the 8 weeks, 12 weeks you have before a fight. And then closer to the fight, you suppress it all with drugs that suppress your testosterone. So it obviously doesn't show up in, like, the systems that, oh, his test levels are normal, but he's walking around like Brock Lesnar. You know what I mean? Like, that's the obvious implication, that he juices up, and then when it gets close to fight week, he just fucking gets chemically castrated like a female. Or to the point of a female. So, yeah, like, he's a blatant cheat. It's obvious he's cheating. This happened in the Gustafsson? Is either the first DC or it was the first DC, I think. Yeah, it was a no contest because he popped. Which makes sense. He's a cheater. Dirty rat cheater. But UFC allows it because he's the baddest man on the planet. Is what it is. So, blatant cheater, not often considered to be on pound for pound list because of the blatant cheating. However, I'm not only ranking this with cheating and without cheating, as I've already gone through Mr. I grow a boob during fights I get TKOs. But I'm also rating this with cheaters. And Jon Jones still isn't pound for pound number 1 on my list. Alex Pereira is, and he mogs him. And this is why. Yes, you can say Jon Jones had a longer career, of course. But his career in light heavyweight, especially, has not been even close to the same dominance that Alex Pereira has had through his, technical career, but obviously his title defenses. And maybe Alex Pereira's wins are going to age poorly, but that's why currently I think Alex Pereira is pound for pound number 1, and I think it'd be very hard for, like, something to convince me that he's not. So, we can start with, where's his first one? Shogun Rua, he knocked out. Congrats. Welcome to the club. Forrest Griffin did it, I think, even faster than Jon Jones did it. Also, Shogun Rua, it's not like this guy has a crimson chin. Like, when I hear about Jon Jones beating Shogun Rua, it's like, oh my god, he dominated Shogun Rua at Shogun Rua's prime. I mean, Shogun Rua was never confirmed to have a great chin. He's been knocked out before. It's not like he's a crazy fucking insane fighter. Nowhere near the pound for pound list. Let's just get that straight. This is a different era, of course, and I'm going to be taking that in consideration for both how I ranked the fighters and how I think the fighters are shit. So he beat an old Shogun Rua, and pay attention to this, older than him at the time, okay? He beat Rampage Jackson, older than him at the time, and Rampage is a good win. I rate that one. Submission in the 4th round, not bad. Okay, a not bad win, a good win. Rampage Jackson was never like a fucking, pound for pound guy, but a good win, especially because Rampage was probably, sipping that Capri Sun, if you know what I mean. But, It's not like John Jones wasn't. So, you know, cheater versus cheater. Makes sense. Lyoto Machida. Also a pretty good win. I think this is the one where, oh, fuck. That was where his body was just, like, fucking dropped like a corpse, right? I think that's what it was. But yeah, good win. I want to say. I'm not tripping, right? Submission, yeah. Yeah, that was the one where he dropped like a corpse. Great submission. Another thing is that a lot of people like to say John Jones is a fucking, you know, technical wizard. He cheats in every single fight. He eye pokes. He goes for, is it the oblique kick or whatever that pushes the opponent's knee in? These are all illegal moves, by the way. You can't eye poke your opponent. Otherwise, you do it more than once, you get taken a point, unless your name's John Jones. Just saying. But yeah, beats Lyoto Machida. Okay, good win, good submission after cheating a little bit with those eye pokes and the oblique kicks. Okay, I did the same thing with Rampage Jackson, but hey, you know, he's the picture boy for UFC, so we don't mention it. Rashad Evans, a decision, very interesting against Rashad Evans. Good win though, good win. Rashad Evans isn't like goated, good win. This is like, in my opinion, on par with like a Cannoneer win. You know, it's good. It's not like amazing. It's good. Vitor Belfort, the juicy boy. I think this is when he was cheating as well. So, you know, cheater versus cheater matchup. Good. But Vitor was also inflated as fuck. Vitor is normally a middleweight. He can cut to middleweight. I think even when he was on juice, he could have cut to middleweight. So, a little inflated. He beat a middleweight. Congratulations. And then he knocked out Chael Sonnen in a fight where his toe was completely broken. And if Chael Sonnen... I know Chael Sonnen was on the juice, and I know Chael Sonnen... I respect Chael Sonnen, undefeated in all of our hearts. But it's not like Chael Sonnen's another greatest of all time fighter. It's just a really good fighter. So this is a good win. Good knockout. But very interesting how it's a older fighter. Older fighter. I think Rashad Evans was older. Don't quote me on that. I think Lyoto Machida was older. Don't quote me on that. But so far, out of these, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out of 6, 4 of them were older. Okay. Is what it is, you know? And then he beat Gustafsson, which, this was a really close fight. I think this, if this is the first one that I'm thinking of, can't remember if it was the first, yeah, it was, because this was KO. This first fight was close as fuck. I think it could have went either way, personally, but I thought it was, just real quick, let me just see these stats. Yeah, he outlanded just a little bit, so it makes sense why he won. It was a close fight. I think Gustafsson did do the more damage. But, you know, close fight. It is what it is. I'll give it to him. But close fight, just like a certain someone who grows a boob when he gets close fights. Anyways. And this is, I think, during a time where Gustafsson had no problem fighting Jones, even though Jones was, you know, sipping the Capri Sun. Because this is, I think it was. I know there was a narrative around Gustafsson just fighting Jones, even though he knows he's cheating. Which Jones was cheating at the time. Obviously. And then he beats Glover. Congratulations. Another older fighter. I think Gustafsson was also older. And then he beat Daniel Cormier. Congratulations. You beat a heavyweight at light heavyweight. No disrespect to DC, but it's not like DC is a crazy fucking... DC is a good fighter, but realistically, he's just a heavyweight that can grapple. That's pretty much it. And I know he did really well against Stipe, and he has knockouts in his career, but it's heavyweight, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure if anyone got hit with a 300-pound fist, they'd probably fall too, you know? It's heavyweight. It is what it is, especially when all the opponents there are 40 plus. So, yeah, congrats. You beat another older one, another older one, another older one. So, what would that be? That would be 7 out of 9? You fought older ones? Okay, congratulations. Ovince St. Preux, this aged like milk. I don't even want to talk about that. Getting Ovince St. Preux to the decision is just a disgrace, and I think that should just be removed because of how bad that looks. DC, when he cheated like a rat, he still won fair and square. No, sorry, he didn't win fair and square. I misspoke there. He won because he cheated, obviously, but it was a really cool highlight KO, obviously. With the spinning kick and the, you know, spinning DC around and the fucking dropping him. Good KO, but it's too bad you cheated. or you got caught for cheating. And then he beat Gustafsson. This one was sad to see, but, you know, good win. But again, like, the thing with Jones is that he's cheating in 99% of these, right? Even if we move up, Thiago Santos, congratulations. You lost to Dominic Reyes. Everyone knows you lost to Dominic Reyes. You should be 28-1. We all know you lost to Dominic Reyes. And Dominic Reyes beating your ass the way he did aged like fucking milk, alright? We all know this. I mean... Oh, look at that. Wow, I didn't even know this, but he did outstrike the shit out of him, didn't he? Oh, interesting. Interesting. I guess except for leg kicks, you know? And he definitely did the most... If you want to say, outlanding someone doesn't mean you won the fight. Okay, sure, bro. Sure, right? But did you see Jones's face? Like, am I the only one who had my eyes open when they announced the decision? Jones looked like he was beaten harder than he beated his wife, you know? He looked that beat up. You know what I mean? Blood everywhere on his face, fucked up lip, you know? It looked fucking sad, you know? Imagine that's what his wife looked like when John Jones beat the shit out of her. Anyways, yeah, you know, it is what it is. People defend, you know, wife beaters and guys who hit pregnant ladies and, you know, just drive off, and, you know, people on coke benders fucking causing disturbances, you know? And, you know, sexually throwing himself at men in a club when he's supposed to be relaxing and also harassing comedians, you know? I guess you want to defend this guy. I get it, you know? You just want to defend that type of person. But he's a good guy because he tackled somebody who stole a lady's purse back when he was getting his title. Wow. Amazing. Anyways, yeah, he beat Smith. Technically, Smith should have just taken the dive on this one because John Jones has one of the lowest IQs. John Jones is given this idea that he's one of the highest IQ fighters. He literally just cheats. He eye pokes on a guy like Oven St. Peru, and he gets away with it because the refs know it's John Jones and they're not going to tell him not to eye poke people. He gets away with oblique kicks. He gets away with cheating on drugs. He gets away with all this because he's John Jones, the face of the UFC. You know what I mean? This is literally like fucking... This is the Homelander, essentially. A guy who does piece of shit actions when he's never... Like, when he's not on mic. And then the moment he's on mic, he's picture boy for the UFC. Anyways. Lost to Dominic Reyes. And then he beat Cyril Gane, who Cyril Gane just doesn't know what grappling is. I don't think he understands what that word means yet. They haven't taught him that yet, unfortunately, in France. But it is what it is. This is a good win. Very inactive. I understand he's injured, but this is, like, honestly, his record is long, but they're against schmucks. Or when it's not against a schmuck, like Jackson being good. Okay. Rampage Jackson being very good. What does he do? Oblique kick, eye poke, and fucking just cheat the whole way. Grabs a fence. Great, bro. Great. You can cheat in a fight and get away with it. Congratulations. You know? But when Leon Edwards does it, he gets a point taken away in the Usman third fight. Pfft, doesn't make fucking sense to me. Just saying. But yeah. Oh, even here it's actually rated, he's 27-1. Should be actually 26-2, to be honest. I do agree that his one actual loss shouldn't mean shit because it was a bad decision by the ref. But he cheats. He's a cheater. Both outside the cage when he's on drugs and inside the cage when he's, number one, on drugs. Number two, eye poking the fuck out of people, grabbing the fence out of people, oblique kicking the people. And number three, let's not pretend he's fighting, like, young, in-prime versions of all these fighters. He's fighting old, like, about-to-retire fighters here, you know? I don't think there's a single win he has on the current roster other than Dominic Reyes, which, I like Dominic Reyes, but we know Dominic Reyes isn't championship level anymore in modern-day MMA. Cyril Gane, which is only known to strike, and even then, he's a fucking dirty rat cheater that got to the top by hitting people in the back of the head in every single one of his fights to drop them. And then Anthony Smith, who's shit. Anthony Smith, oh my god, this actually is a perfect time to talk. Anthony Smith just lost to Roman fucking Dolidze. And you might be like, oh, well, maybe Roman out-grappled him, because everyone talks about Roman being a good grappler. No, he lost. Anthony Smith lost to Roman Dolidze. Striking. Okay? Just saying, a little bit of a dog shit loss. I think Roman Dolidze has one of the worst striking of all time. Like, Roman Dolidze striking, it, like, oh, I'm just thinking about it right now, man. It's so painful. It is so painful to watch. You could take anyone off the street and they would have better striking than Roman Dolidze. His striking is that bad. He does just the one good thing he has is like an overhand right that puts away someone like Jack Hermanson, you know? Joe Pyfer couldn't. Very interesting the way that works. Anyways. But yeah. Anyways, his wins are all shit on the current roster. And on the old roster, Thiago Santos, Gustafsson, Daniel Cormier. The Gustafsson wins I rate, but he's cheating. The Cormier wins I rate, but he's cheating. Oven St. Preux to decision is a disgrace. And all of the fighters he fights are older than him. You know? And let's not pretend age isn't a factor in MMA. You know? If Volkanovski was fucking 31, 32 years old fighting Ilya Topuria, that line probably would have been minus 1500 or something fucking crazy fighting current day Ilya Topuria. But obviously, with age comes a little bit weaker chin, comes a little bit slower movements, comes a little bit slower in the brain activity. So it's just shit. These are bad aged wins. And this is in the old era of MMA where you can get away with cheating, no problem. And fighters normally either only grapple or they only strike. You know, there was very, very little balance between the two. Most strikers ended up trying to strike to get to the grappling. Most grapplers would try to strike to get to the grappling. Most strikers would try to fake takedowns and stuff like that if they needed, and then continue striking, you know? But yeah, I don't rate almost any of these wins at all. None of them are actually good because of the fact that he's a cheater in every single one of these fights. And here's another thing. Maybe you want to argue Jon Jones is the GOAT because he was only popped once or twice. I think it was twice, actually, for the PEDs. Okay? And the pictograms, right? Maybe that's your argument, so you remove 2 wins and that still makes him the GOAT, right? You can't, because when someone cheats one time, it's almost impossible. No, it is impossible to tell if they cheated the whole time. So if you're... Think of this in a video game. If I saw Shroud, Jinxie, or fucking... I don't know, who's another top gamer? Off the top of my head. Faker. People like that have like aimbot, walls, or like scripting. It's like, once they've done it one time, it's hard to believe any of their gameplay is real. It's the same thing with fighting. If you've been popped for PEDs one time, it's like you've been popped for PEDs for all of your fights. That's how you deal with cheaters. That's how you prevent cheaters from moving on. Unfortunately for TJ Dillashaw, that's exactly what happened to him. Nobody will ever rate any of his wins ever, and he'll never be able to compete again. But Jon Jones gets to compete even though he's popped twice for performance-enhancing drugs. Anyways, Jon Jones, my opinion, you can put him top 5 because of the length of his career, because of the minimal losses, and because of the names he's fought, right? In my opinion, you can't put him number 1. You just can't, you know? And given the options so far, you know, Khabib being flawless, I would put Khabib over Jon Jones just because... I take that back. I actually instantly take that back. I don't even know why I said that. I put Jon Jones above these two for sure. But they're not good, you know? It's not great. And now we're going into the real contender for pound number 1. Georges St. Pierre, a fellow Canadian. Claims to be Canadian, but he's the French Canadian. I'm the English one, so, you know. Our people don't really get along that well. But, anyways, we claim him nonetheless for now, as Canadians. Good wins. Good wins. Georges St. Pierre I rate pretty highly. Definitely above Jones. I put George above Jones. And the next fighter I also put above Jones. So I'd probably put George at like number 3. I'd probably put the next fighter I'm going to talk about at number 2, and I'd put Alex at number 1. Jones at 3, Khabib at 4, yeah, and then Israel's not even in conversation. This guy's not even top 15. You didn't see that. Anyways, so the reason why I'm not putting George St. Pierre at number 1, beating Michael Bisping, great win. Michael Bisping isn't the craziest champion, okay? But that was after a 5-year layoff. He was the older opponent, so I rate that pretty highly. You know, when an older guy beats a younger guy, I think that's way more impressive every single time than the younger guy beating the older guy, because there's the obvious fact that the younger guy has the age advantage, and the older guy, while has the experience, is just supposed to be slower, and he's supposed to be dumber, and he's supposed to be chinnier. Like, that's just genetically how that works. But yeah, Michael Bisping, great win. I rate that one a lot. I like Michael Bisping. I think Michael Bisping was a great champion. He is one of the lower end of champions, if we're being honest, but good win. Beating Johnny Hendricks, also a good win at the time. Johnny Hendricks was really good. Beating Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz, I think, is a little bit hated, but Nick Diaz, like beating Nick Diaz by decision makes sense. Nick Diaz is a tough motherfucker to get out of there, just like Nate Diaz. Some people just get given God's gift, you know. And Nick Diaz at least made the fight entertaining. George St. Pierre against Carlos Condit, good win, good win. We are seeing a lot of decisions, which I actually didn't realize how many decisions there was. A lot of decisions, and that's obviously because George St. Pierre's a grappler mainly. And it's a little boring being a GOAT if you're a grappler. But anyways, grappling's for pussies. Anyways, moving on. Beating Jake Shields is whatever. It's Jake Shields. Beating Josh Koscheck, good win. Beating Dan Hardy, good win. Thiago Alves, good win. And you see all these are championship bouts, you know. But my one issue, actually I have 2 issues. The 2 issues are, number 1, a lot of decisions. And if you're this pound for pound number 1 in the world, and we're getting invaded, I don't want you to get split decision. Like, if you're the baddest, bro, this is what it is. If you're the baddest man on the planet, most dangerous person on the planet, the best combat athlete of all time, I don't want to get invaded by a country and think, at least I have John Jones and George St. Pierre to win a split decision against fucking the English that are raiding me right now. You know what I mean? I want someone who can finish fights. That's kind of where I rank. So if you knock out or finish your opponents at a very high rate, I'm rating that much higher than getting people to decisions. So in championship bouts, he definitely has a lot of decisions. We see that. So I you know, hit that a little bit there. But on top of that, he lost to Matt Serra. And it sucks, because if he never lost to Matt Serra, I think he's undisputed pound for pound number 1. Unless you're me and you consider Alex Pereira pound for pound number 1. But you would definitely rate him higher than John Jones. But this is like, it happened so early that this is like what would have happened if John Jones was given a loss when Dominic Reyes beat his ass instead of that W. This really sucks. And I know he lost via TKO, so it's a little different because it's not a decision. But this is like when you go to a fucking, this is like when you go to McDonald's, right? And you get that nice cheeseburger that you've been craving for all week. You get a nice chocolate milkshake that you've been craving all week. And it's like, it's looking so fucking good. And then you get handed your fries, but your fries all look like shit. And you're like, ugh, brother, what is that? Ugh, brother. Ugh, what's that? You know? It's just like, it was so, you had everything. You had the drink, you had the milkshake, you had the cheeseburger, all the core parts so good, and then the fries just look like dog shit. And Matt Hughes is just fries that look like dog shit on his record. Or sorry, Matt Serra, my bad, not Matt Hughes. Yeah, if he never lost to Matt Serra, or Matt Hughes, I guess, you know. But Matt Serra and Matt Hughes are very, very bad losses to have on a near perfect record. I know those are his only 2 losses, but this is like if Khabib was considered the GOAT and he lost to BJ Penn and then beat BJ Penn, you know? It's great that you're able to lose and then beat a fighter, but pound for pound number 1, I think are people who have the numbers advantage when it comes to wins and losses. They're not 1-1 against anyone. Yeah, personally. But I rate these very high. I'm also Canadian, so I have a bias towards George St. Pierre, because he's the pride of MMA when it comes to our country. You know, Mike Malott, the fucking fraud who got fraud checked. Anyways, I don't even want to get into that, man. That just makes me depressed. Moving on, we have the last contender, and who I considered pound for pound number 1 until recently. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. So yeah, I'm gonna shift the list down. Mighty Mouse number 2, George St. Pierre number 3, John Jones number 4, Khabib number 5, Israel number 50th. Actually Israel number 100th. Fuck him. Cheating, fucking doggy diddler, fucking drunk driving bastard. Anyways, yeah, I mean, do they not have the fucking record here? MMA record. Yeah, here it is. So, Demetrius, I rate very, very highly. I rate him as high as possible. Because, number 1, I think also another thing with these weight classes, I rate higher weight classes higher than lower weight classes. That's kind of why I didn't bring up Jose Aldo, Alexander Volkanovski, and like a welterweight outside of GSP. Only because I rate lower weight classes lower. Because obviously the thought process is pound for pound. I know it's if everyone was the same height, weight, whatever. But that's impossible to do when we're talking about like featherweights, flyweights, bantamweights, compared to a light heavyweight. You know what I mean? Like there's not a single flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, or even maybe even a lightweight that could take out, I think, the highest level heavyweight or light heavyweight, except, and that's purely because of size and weight. I'm not talking about skill, I'm just talking about size and weight. Except for this young man right here, the 5'3" short king himself, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. I can't believe he's 5'3". Holy fuck, I thought he was 5'8". My bad. I guess he is flyweight, makes sense. Yeah, I considered him to be the best, and the reason why I consider him to be the best, just, oh my god, looking at that record just makes me fucking horny, I'm not gonna lie. Holy shit. You know, Frankie Mendez, great win. Like, a lot of these are like, you know, up-and-comer things. We're not gonna get into these. Obviously, none of these guys are still competing, right? This is fucking, what was that, 20 years ago? 20 years ago? Whoa, he's not that old. Fucking 13 years ago. And I wasn't watching during these times, but I've seen the highlights. You know, I've seen a couple of the fights, a couple of the rounds. The Dominic Cruz is actually a very good win. I think Dominic Cruz is still on the roster. I don't think he's retired. I think he's like debating on coming back. So Dominic Cruz, he lost to. I think that was his first ever title bout. Okay. Not off to a great start. He gets a draw, which is very rare. I think he won this fight, personally. I don't think it was a draw. And then he beat him, as he should have. He started here. Yeah, like these two guys, Miguel Torres, I think actually still fights now. I swear I've seen him recently. At least in the past couple years. Maybe I'm tripping. Could be tripping. This guy I don't think competes anymore. I haven't seen him ever. But yeah, losing Dominic Cruz. This is prime Dominic Cruz. This is full chin Dominic Cruz. So back when he wasn't chinny. This is high skill Dominic Cruz, the one that made alpha male fucking cry their little pants. Or piss their little pants and fucking cry in the corner. No Ian Gary. And then Ian McCall. He got a draw. I thought he won this. And then he came back and he beat his ass. And then he won again. Joseph Benavidez. He won. Decision. At these lower weight classes, decisions are a little bit more prevalent. But this is why I'm going to rate him so high. We'll get into it. And just looking at all the championship belts. bouts here, right? Excluding his rise in one championship, right? So we're excluding here. He has the longest defenses, so that's why I'm not including Anderson Silva here, because I think technically Demetrius has a longer, or he has more championship wins than what's it called, Anderson Silva. Also, Anderson Silva was kind of, I think, one of those fighters that was really great for the time, but Anderson Silva would never be anywhere in like today's day and age, where like people like Demetrius Johnson, in his time, his like 2014 era, he was king. Right now, I think he's still king. I think he could still come back and fucking mop the floor. John Jones, exactly, kind of the same thing. He is more of an era fighter and he fights more of an older audience, right? So I do think he kind of gets smoked if he fought any of the current light heavyweights. So I actually retract that statement. He's actually nothing like John Jones. Khabib, I think, would do pretty well in today's modern age. Israel is obviously currently competing, so it makes sense that he would hold up to most middleweights because most middleweights are dog shit. But flyweights are really high level. And just starting, Joseph Benavidez, really good win. Joseph Benavidez was a really good flyweight. Or sorry, was this flyweight or bantamweight? Is it gonna tell me here? I think it was flyweight. Yeah. Yeah, it was flyweight. But here's the thing, right? This is what I love so much about Demetrius Johnson. He gets a split decision, right? And it's like, oh, okay, that's not a great start to your career. Decisions, you know, when I rate finishes and everything so well. He gets a decision, right? And then he fights John Dodson, gets a nice decision. And then, you know, fucking, how many Johns, bro? Jesus Christ, Joseph? Yeah. Anyways, so he gets another unanimous decision here. Fairly active, fighting within 4 months. And then he submits John Morgan. So that's a finish on the record. John Morgan isn't a crazy fighter, but good. I like seeing finishes against schmucks, you know what I mean? You know, like, I don't like seeing decision. I don't like seeing an Oven St. Peru decision, you know what I mean? Like, when I think of a guy like John Moraga, when I think of a guy like good old Johnny Boy here, I don't see him anywhere at all anymore. So, I imagine you should be submitting someone like this guy. Joseph Benavidez, who he recently had a split decision with, he comes back and he beats his absolute ass, proving that he's still evolving, you know? And then Ali, that decision unanimous is what it is. Happens at these lower weight classes, more common, you know? Obviously, I'm not rating this win higher than, you know, any win. Israel is, they're all cheaters, bro. I can't rate any of John. I'm sorry. I can't rate any of John Jones's wins because they're all cheating. He's cheating all the time. And Israel Adesanya, he grows a boob randomly, so it's hard to tell if he's cheating all the time or just whenever the organization wants him to. But yeah. I think there's 0 chance that Demetrius Johnson was on fucking juice, by the way, so this is 100% natural. I think there's a pretty decent chance that George was on a little bit of that Capri Sun, but, you know, I don't care too much if George was or wasn't. I'm not going to rate him any higher or lower, because I'm including cheaters, obviously, because of these fucks. But Demetrius Johnson, he gets a nice career here, where he, you know, decision, and then submission, after submission, after, okay, one decision every once in a while, that's fine, and then a knockout on Henry Cejudo, right? Which, this is in prime Henry Cejudo. Maybe I'm autistic, I don't know why I can't fucking say his name. Henry Cejudo. In the first round, which is crazy at the time, because, you know, greatest combat athlete of all time, Mr. Henry Cejudo, Triple C. And then we have a decision unanimous, and a submission, after a submission on Ray Borg, that flying armbar, obviously the classic. And then you have the loss split decision here, which, if you, this is how I think you should judge your rankings. If you rank Demetrius Johnson lower because he lost to Henry Cejudo on paper, I think you have to take into consideration that John Jones lost to Dominic Reyes. Because, in my opinion, Dominic Reyes had a more dominant performance than Henry Cejudo, and I think in this fight you could have given it to Demetrius Johnson. This was like, oh, okay, it's a little up in the air, and he probably should have showcased his levels to this and whatever, right? But this was a really, really close fight that I think personally Demetrius Johnson won. I'm obviously biased because I like Demetrius more than Triple C. But if you're ranking this and you're saying, well, Demetrius Johnson lost to Henry Cejudo, so that's why he's lower. Well, Dominic Reyes beat the shit out of John Jones for at least three out of those 5 rounds. You could even make an argument 4 out of those 5 rounds. And Israel Adesanya, if you're ranking him at all, you also have to take into consideration Yoel Romero was a barely passable win. That second Whitaker fight, a barely passable win. You know? You can't just be like, oh, well, he has, 3 losses? 4 losses his entire career. From start to finish. And, that's why you have to rate him lower, because he has more losses. This loss is extremely fucking close. And then, this might... If you ran that fight back and you did the exact same thing and you showed the results to 3 judges again, I guarantee you get a different result at least 50% of the time. You either get Demetrius winning 50% of the time or you get Henry winning by 50% of the time. This Brad Pickett loss, it is what it is. He lost, decision. His losses here by decision. They're close fights. And I do think that he lost them. But this is early before his title reign. And then he gets the belt, and he's a fucking absolute beast. Unstoppable. He's so unstoppable that Dana White was fucking running out of contenders. So they're literally like, yeah, we're going to swap him for Ben Askren. And, we all know how that went. And then he goes to 1, and he absolutely dominates. Not even fucking close here. And I know these are, again, decisions, and I don't like decisions. These are 3-rounders. He's in a different organization. There's a little bit different rules. Speaking of the different rules, yes, he does get knocked out by a knee on the ground. And if you're new to the UFC or MMA in general, UFC is notorious for not allowing these on the ground. So I 100% understand that as an elite fighter who's been fighting for fucking literally over a decade at this point, your brain's wired to be like, okay, don't knee on the ground. Okay, he can't knee me on the ground. And I understand this is still a loss, but then he comes back and he flying fucking knees Adrian Moraes after getting knee KO'd by Adrian. This is why Demetrius is so high on my list. If he loses, or if there's something up in the air, he'll come back and he'll absolutely mop the floor with them, proving that he's just, he's like that guy in solo queue in any game, like Call of Duty. He's in solo queue, he's just chilling, grinding camos, right? And somebody talks shit, right? Demetrius is on like a 50-game winning streak, and he gets on a 1 losing streak, and the guy's like, yo, 1v1 me, bro, you're dog shit. And DJ is like, oh, okay then, bet. And he 10-0s you, fucking smokes you. He bends you over and spanks you, even though he's fucking 5'3", you know what I mean? And another reason why I rate him so high, this technically doesn't have much to do with his ability in the UFC, because I know he does grappling, but in a grappling session, he showcased he could literally submit a fucking 200 and... I don't even know. He was a roided up fucking bodybuilder, jiu-jitsu black belt, and he submitted him at literally probably double his weight. And that's not even an exaggeration. So the fact that he showcased this, even outside of combat sports, outside of MMA, even in, combat sport, he showcased in jiu-jitsu, size doesn't matter, he'd beat your ass. The only reason why he doesn't do it in, combat sports is because that's not how, in MMA, it's because that's not how MMA works. MMA gives you a weight class. You're supposed to fight at a weight class for your career, you know what I mean? But he showcased that he can mop the floor with people who are, twice his size with jiu-jitsu. And if we're talking about maybe just striking, I think he'd probably be, his 5'3" little ass scampering around, fucking dodging all those punches, getting to the back, and then it's GG. You know what I mean? Like, no joke, I'd actually pick him to beat Jon Jones. I'm not even joking. Like, you might call... This is where, like, you might say you're delusional, you have no fucking idea what you're talking about, whatever. I'd pick him to beat Jon Jones. Jon Jones, who's not cheating. So, if we're talking MMA rules, I'm not talking about street fights, because those are gay. You know, something Jon Jones would enjoy. But in an MMA match, I'd pick Demetrius Johnson. I just think Demetrius would be able to find a way to beat Jon. If we're actually... Also, I think Jon would DQ himself by cheating so much. Or he'd get popped for steroids again. So I'd still pick Demetrius Johnson. Because at worst, it would be a no contest, you know? Personally, that's my take. You probably disagree. You're welcome to disagree. I just think you're wrong. Anyways. But yeah, though that's basically my top 5. Alex Pereira, number 1. Demetrius, number 2. George, number 3. Jon Jones, 4. Khabib, 5. Israel, nowhere fucking near. And if you want to get, like, you know, 6, probably Jose Aldo, depending where his career finishes now that he's back. Then probably Volkanovski. Then probably... probably Anderson Silva. Yeah, the rest are basically, like, up in the air. I'm free to, like, swap them around, pretty much. Yeah, I can't really think of any super dominant champions, you know. We'll see where Sugar Sean ends up, you know. But, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much what I picked there. Another reason why I think Alex Pereira is my greatest fighter of all time is, number 1, he's not only... oh, I should probably get... Let me explain myself on why I think he is the greatest now that I've gone through all of these fights. He started MMA in 2021, okay? Or sorry, maybe it was a little earlier because I know he lost his debut. Or I'm pretty sure he lost his debut. Let me just double check. Number 1, he had a long career in kickboxing, okay? So he went from one combat sport and basically was like, let me try to challenge myself. He basically was a casual player. Or sorry, I'm not even going to say that because he was like top level in kickboxing. He was basically in Diamond in any competitive game you play. And then he went from Diamond and he's like, you know what? Instead of just playing in Diamond, I'm going to go try to be top 10 in the world. And he literally dominated everyone. He did actually lose his debut. That's kind of sad. But yeah, lost his debut. Is what it is. It happens. But if we're talking about a career here, nice knockout. You should be knocking out a no-name like him. You should be knocking out a no-name of Marcus Vinicius. You should be knocking out Thomas Powell. You should be knocking out people like this. You know what I mean? Like, everyone he should be winning. Bruno Silva's like the one outlier. But if we're talking about outliers, you know, Demetrius Johnson has some decisions against names that he should probably have finishes over. It is what it is. And Jon Jones, like, decision to Ovince St. Peru, Glover Teixeira, like, Gustafsson, like, these shouldn't be fucking close. You know what I mean? They should be finishes if you're this overall dominant fucking whatever, right? Like, if you're a dominant champion, you should be fucking obliterating guys like these. And then we go into... I'm missing it. Here it is. So he gets a decision on Bruno Silva, and this was all before he gets the belt, right? And then he beats Sean Strickland by KO, which I think... I know at the time everyone's like, oh, Sean Strickland doesn't have a great chin. Oh, Sean Strickland was walking into him. At the end of the day, I understand it's like, oh, well, why are you kickboxing with a kickboxer? MMA striking is still different than just kickboxing, you know? And I think that needs to be mentioned. And I think he's mastered the art of fusing both of them together. You know? He's really, really good at getting you to condition yourself for something. So yeah, he knocks out Sean Strickland, which I'd rate pretty highly, considering Sean Strickland just beat the shit out of fucking Israel Adesanya and had one of the closest fight ever against Dricus du Plessis, which Sean Strickland was eating fucking clean head kicks, by the way. Just saying. And then he smokes Israel Adesanya in the 5th. Yes, he loses by KO. But, like, I'm gonna cope and just say that, like, he lost this fight because in his brain he's like, okay, I'm just gonna beat this guy for the 4th time. You know, he wasn't locked in, basically. And you can call it cope, whatever you want, but that's what I'm gonna say. And then he goes up a weight class where everyone's bigger, blah 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 blah. Anthony Smith. He beats Jan Blachowicz by out grappling Jan Blachowicz at some parts, which Israel Adesanya couldn't do. So you can't rate Izzy higher than Alex if Alex is smoking everyone that beats Izzy, and he beat Izzy. I just think you can't rate him higher. And then he smokes Jiri Prochazka in 2 rounds. Like, he was getting pieced up, to be fair, but he was conditioning Jiri, and then he landed that clean left hook that he normally lands, and he knocked his ass out. Pretty much cold. Even though Jiri was shooting for a takedown afterwards, if you watch the fight slowly, you can see Jiri goes out. His hands are limp, his body's limp, and then he gets woken up, like, mid-sequence of being finished, and then falls to the ground, probably where he was also unconscious, and Jiri also said he was unconscious, so you can't defend the fact that it was an early stoppage. I can understand why you might be saying it's an early stoppage, but it's indefensible, because everyone, like, Jiri has said he was knocked out. He was knocked out. You know what I mean? And then he smokes Jamal Hill, and then he smokes Jiri again in the same round, and Jamal in the first round. And I know you can caveat this by saying, well, you know, Jamal was, you know, he wasn't locked in because, he did that low blow or whatever. Right? Because I cope with the whole, oh, he wasn't locked in the Izzy fight. I'm okay if you want to cope and say Jamal wasn't locked in there. But something that needs to be mentioned, this isn't Israel Adesanya growing a boob and smoking a guy who's never lost in Paulo Costa. This is Alex Pereira knocking out everyone who stands in front of his way, except for the Crimson Chin Jan Blachowicz and at elevation and Bruno Silva. I guess that's, you know, every fighter has that one random thing that doesn't make sense. But he's literally smoked everyone. There's never been a champion in light heavyweight who's dominated. Does John Jones have 3 finishes in a row as a champion? Okay, he does here. Yeah, he has won 3 finishing sequence. But against these 3 people, Lyoto Machida is the best one, obviously. Rampage Jackson is pretty good, but he cheated in all these fights. He's on roids and everything. Obviously, we don't know if Alex Pereira is on roids or not. I would wager he's probably not. Just on the way he fights, he hasn't been popped for any substances. I think it's just that natural Brazilian heritage in him that just makes him a fucking monster when he walks out. But he's knocking everyone out in an impressive fashion as a champion, or to get champion, and then once he's a champion, he's still knocking motherfuckers out. And he's doing all of this while fighting younger opponents, which John Jones has fought exclusively older opponents. So there's always a disadvantage in every single one of Alex Pereira's fights, and he still pulls it out of the hat. It's literally like if you played Call of Duty and you were restricted using like 1 gun, and you're still on a fucking a winning streak tear or something, you know what I mean? Or like League of Legends, you're in a 4v5 every single game, and you carry the game so hard, you end up beating the opponents for like fucking all the way up to the highest level. It's insane. And yeah. And I'll openly say, I picked Jiri Prochazka in the rematch here. I picked Jiri Prochazka to beat Alex Pereira. I thought there was more aura on Jiri Prochazka for sure. And I thought Alex Pereira was coming off a little bit of a vacation celebration and injury. So I thought Jiri was going to get it. And this was the most opportune time to beat Alex. So we'll see where Alex ends his career and everything like that. But currently, right now, Alex Pereira, in my book, is pound for pound #1 MMA fighter of all time. Personally. And I think it's very hard to dispute it just based on his finishing rate. Like, if we're talking about who's the baddest man on the planet, and we put all the people you think are the baddest man on the planet in one room, Alex Pereira, I think, is the only one leaving that place alive, because he just left hooks you, and you're dead, you know? John Jones is going to try to eye poke you. and then like break your kneecap while following certain rules. You know what I mean? Or while breaking rules mid-fight. But yeah, I just think Alex Pereira currently would beat any fighter on the planet in any, not in anything. I understand if there's a jiu-jitsu tournament, he's losing, probably by someone like Demetrius Johnson. But if we're talking MMA, if we're talking pound for pound, if we're talking boxing, if we're talking kickboxing, literally anything but a strictly jiu-jitsu or strictly wrestling match, I'm picking Alex Pereira in. And then all these other fighters, I'm not picking them in anything but MMA. Like, I'm not picking John Jones in wrestling. I pick DC in wrestling. I'm not picking Khabib in any sort of striking match ever. I'd pick a prime Edson, or I'd pick Dustin, or I'd pick Justin. They'd probably smoke him in an only striking match. And I'm not picking Izzy in fucking anything, because I think he's terrible at everything. The only thing he's good at is poking and running away. That's it. I'm not picking him in a jiu-jitsu tournament. I'm not picking him in a kickboxing tournament, because Alex Pereira exists, you know? And Alex Pereira is just a funny dude, you know? He's a good guy. So far, you know? We'll see where it ends. He's no doggy diddler, or a guy who grows a boob on days where he gets KOs when he's normally doing decisions. And he's not a dirty rat cheater who fucking beats his wife and hits pregnant women and runs off. But yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say. This is my opinion. I'm open to any discussions anyone wants to have. I appreciate all the comments, the likes, and subscribers I've been getting over the couple weeks that I've been doing YouTube. I'm a little newer to this stuff. I wanted to do something a little freaky for Friday, you know? And yeah. I enjoy UFC. I play video games. I'll probably do videos on both, because I just enjoy them both. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you for watching this video, and hope you have a good day.